Antonietta Collins, safety Eric Reid signed with the Panthers Thursday. He had been a free agent since March when his Niners contract expired, and as a result, he filed the collusion grievance against the NFL. He was the first NFL player to join Colin Kaepernick in kneeling during the anthem in 2016. Our insider, Adam Schefter, with more on what this means for Kaepernick and why Carolina signed Reid.
The Panthers had a need at the safety position. And oh, by the way, there were other teams in the NFC South that also needed a safety. The Falcons lost both their starting safeties to season-ending injuries. The Buccaneers lost Chris Conte to 6 weeks to a torn posterior cruciate ligament. But the Panthers also lost one safety who suffered a second concussion in 30 days. So they had a need at the position. There's not a team out there right now that has been knocking on the door of Colin Kaepernick, whose collusion case goes on right now in the courts as we speak about this right now. So just because Reid gets a one-year deal done with Carolina, and Carolina's on the bye week this week, he'll come back and play for them, doesn't mean that all of a sudden somebody's going to be knocking on Colin Kaepernick's door. This was a football decision that the Carolina Panthers made, and there hasn't been a team out there willing to make a football decision so far on Colin Kaepernick in terms of bringing him back.
Now let's get you back to First Take.
Tony, Adam, thank you. Eric Reid officially back in the NFL. We told you yesterday how happy we are about that. The Panthers signed him to a one-year deal. Stephen A., I'll start with you. Does Reid getting a job now give Colin Kaepernick a better shot at getting back in the league?
I doubt it. It's possible, but I doubt it. And the reason why I doubt it is because there's still a collusion case that's taking place. And it's one thing for Reid. We got to remember something. We're acting like Reid, it didn't cost him anything. We're so happy that he's back in the league. This is a man that made nearly $5.68 million last season, max. His salary is at now $1.39 million with incentives that could boost it to $2 million. I had that information last night on my special, and Mr. Adam Schefter confirmed that for me. So we appreciate you, Adam. Thank you so much. Here's the deal. That's cost him more than $4 million. So this is an individual that was looking for a contract extension. He was looking for more money, and he ended up costing himself about $4 million. Now we look at Colin Kaepernick. So, I bring that up because it's clearly a situation where the league wants to send a message. And I know about parroting the speech and all of that stuff, and I'll leave that up to Max because you're absolutely right about it. There ain't no disputing it. But I'm just speaking about things from a factual perspective as it pertains to what position it puts Colin Kaepernick in. I'm of the mindset I don't even know if Colin Kaepernick wants a job anymore. Because as we look at him...
No, that's not true.
Well, let me explain. Let me explain why I feel this way. Because when you look at him, and you look at the Nike commercial, and you look at how much money that they've made off of this and the type of things that are transpiring, you have to know that in the National Football League, with everything that's coming on, the further you take this, the more it diminishes and dissipates your possibility of getting a job. And I think that he is so principled and he's so passionate about what he feels that it's clearly, and based on what he said in the commercial, it's clearly a price that he's willing to pay. So that's what I mean. I don't mean literally not wanting something.
No, because I know for sure he's training, ready to go, and is hoping to get back in the league.
That's right. I'm not questioning that. I'm just talking about from a realistic perspective. He has to know. And so as a result of it, him going forward the way that he's going forward, he is clearly principled enough where he is willing to take the position, like he said on commercial, willing to sacrifice everything. That's all I mean by that. And to me, having Eric Reid signed to this one-year deal, Eric Reid wasn't the one that instigated all of this in the eyes of the owners. They're not as hell-bent on denying Eric Reid an opportunity as they appear to be in denying Colin Kaepernick an opportunity. And that's why I could be wrong, but that's what I suspect is the situation.
Eric Reid having a job is a win for the owners because he didn't get a job until he said, fine, I won't kneel during the anthem, right? That's actually a win for the owners. They exerted economic pressure, I believe illegally, but we'll see, in order to force their political, as I said, standing for the anthem. That's parroting the owner's political speech. You referenced it, and I don't think that's even legal. It's up for the courts to decide. We'll see. But
I'm going to come back to that in a minute, but go ahead.
But I would say this about Kaepernick. The assumption among owners is that it's bad for business to support or at least not punish, at least economically, the players who don't stand for the anthem, who don't parrot their political speech. I don't think that assumption is right. And I think that with Eric Reed on the team, and they will see that it doesn't hurt business, I think they'll see eventually that Kaepernick doesn't hurt business either. In fact, I think they may see that Kaepernick helps their business just as he's helping Nike's business. Where are all the people, under what rocks did they scurry once the information came out that Nike stock is way up since they did the Kaepernick ad? Because they were all coming out of the woodwork talking about Nike stock is down some tiny little percentage.
It's
when
not
they
billions.
Yeah. But by the way, when it was down that tiny little percentage, so was every other sneaker company by about the same percentage. It was just made up nonsense by people who are either not of goodwill, not good faith actors trying to spin propaganda, or else not cognitively able to understand what's happening. Nike stock is they're billions up. My prediction is the team that signs Kaepernick will also see an economic boon and to their business. And the idea that they won't, I think, is based on the idea that the multiracial coalition in this country is not the way to go, because this cuts into politics and across the culture wars, et cetera. It's the kind of block that we've always catered to. That's who we need to continue catering to. The country is changing. The world is changing. Even the demographics of NFL fans is changing. And I think Kaepernick is good for business.
But here's where your argument gets minimized. Everything you said is on point and makes sense. But you've repeatedly accused the owners of not making sense. So it's not about what the truth is. It's not about what you're conveying and disseminating. It's about what their belief system is. And I'm coming to a question. Stay with me.
Yes, I'm with you.
Because on one hand, we have to understand this. Even though we recognized the 4.9% jump in revenue, where ultimately they ended up cashing checks, Molly and Max, for $255 million apiece as owners, okay? But somehow, some way they were worried. What I was saying was, that's what they did, and they still were in panic mode, which showed you what their concerns were. And if that is their concern, and they believed that Colin Kaepernick could potentially cost them money, their belief is what mattered even more than truth at that particular moment in time. Where I come back to you and I ask a question about this is simply this. When you say parroting their political beliefs, I've always disagreed with you about that in this one sense. I don't think it's ever been about their political beliefs. I think it's always been about their belief as it pertained to how or if their bottom line was affected at all. So I ask you, considering the fact that that's their primary focus and there's really no truth to it, right? Now we got the collusion case. And now they're going to sit up there and go like this. Wait a minute, this man is trying to take us down. This ain't about the revenue anymore. This ain't about the national anthem anymore. This man has tried to take us down, and us allowing him back in would open the floodgates for others to come at us.
Now,
what do you say to that?
I think these are very good points you're addressing. Let me start with the collusion case.
Sure.
Best way to disprove a collusion case is to give him a job. That's number one. Like, drop the collusion case and we'll give you a job. I don't know. Make me a couple job offers from a couple different teams. It's kind of tough to prove collusion.
Why would you do that when you got a chance to make more money with the collusion case than coming back to get a job?
Even the job offer would maybe disprove that. It would at least be used as evidence against it. Even the offer. That's one. Okay. Two, you're right about, it's not about the owner saying, you better parrot our political speech. It's that they're saying this is good for our business. If you parrot the political speech of a big percentage of our viewership, of our patrons, of our audience,
yes,
right. Ignoring the fact that a big percentage also doesn't. Okay. I understand that that's the case. My point is that may be illegal anyway, even if that's not what's motivating the behavior. If in the end the result is you can't have a job unless you publicly parrot our political speech, I believe that doesn't hold up if it gets kicked up through the courts. That's the second thing. The third thing is this. Then this is your big point, and this is really what I want to address, not the technical stuff.
Sure.
That cultural bias or personal bias about issues, including, hey, I think this is the way things have always been and it will continue to be that way. Or just, we think this is bad for business. Maybe mistaken, but we think it's bad for business.
Okay.
That can become entrenched and really retard progress for a long time. Eventually, empirical results, beat the cultural bias eventually. So once upon a time, a black man couldn't play in the major leagues, for example. Ranch Rickey said, I'm just going to go get a Negro League All-Star team and put it. And the Brooklyn Dodgers went to the World Series every year. And other teams finally said, hey, you know what? Maybe. And by the way, it was good for business, not bad for business. And other teams followed suit. If Eric Reed isn't bad for business, if they see Kaepernick might be good for business, he'll get a job.
I know we need to wrap it up soon, but in layman's term, here's my concern for Colin Kaepernick. This is the most visible position, and it's the top position in the league. So it's one thing for Eric Reed, but he's the face of the movement. So that's my concern in terms of him continuing to be blacklisted moving forward.
Well, I agree with you to some degree in that regard, but what I'm saying is that it's a bigger issue now. And we also have to remember, we keep just glossing over the fact that the NFL is a private industry. It's the private sector. It's not federal. You understand? It's not governmental. We have to pay attention to that. Now, obviously, the government can intervene because you got antitrust lawsuits and all of that stuff. We understand that. And you are right about the possibility. But you use the word possibility. I'm pointing to likelihood. And what I'm saying is likelihood, really, you're going to sit up there as a court. You're going to say, well, you know what? You don't have the right as a private industry to sit up there and look at your bottom line and say, we believe, based on our information gathered at the time, that this was bad for business.
I'll tell you why.
And I don't know if anybody.
There were Southern store owners who made the same argument about not serving black people at the counter once upon a time because it was bad for business. And eventually the court said, well, I'm very sorry for you, but tough, you're going to have to serve them anyway. So I think that addresses that basic issue.
I really don't.
But let's put it this way.
Okay.
I agree. Colin Kaepernick has been, as you said, blacklisted because the owners believe he's bad for business. Nike thinks he's good for business, and he is good for business so far. It looks that way. If owners start to believe Colin Kaepernick might be good for business, he'll get on the white list pretty quick.
Of course. Well said. We'll wrap that up there.
Is
the dynasty on the verge of falling off a cliff? Find out Sunday's a must-win for the struggling Patriots. That's coming up next. Put a nice bow on that one, Max.